Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the channel, and today, as promised, this is my first initial review and installation guide for the Hitchcocks free-flowing headers on the Royal Enfiled Interceptor 650. Can you hear them? Oh! So as I said, this is just initial impressions because I've only just installed these on the bike. I'll take you through the installation process. It's very, very easy. And I'll give you my first thoughts on what I think of these pipes, but I think you can hear straight away off the bat, they do sound rather impressive. But let's put that to one side for now and talk about, the reasons why these are really on the bike, aside from the childish stuff like sound. So there are some legitimate reasons as to why a free-flowing exhaust system is a good thing. And there's kind of pros and cons with a lot of this stuff. Talking about the pros then, so obviously you save quite a bit of weight. With these headers you save around 3 kilograms over and above the factory setup, so that's always a good thing. So the second plus point for these, in this particular case, is the materials they've used to make them. This is a 304 highly polished stainless steel, which in my books is preferable over and above a chrome plated pipe. It's kind of easier to look after, and you get that added benefit of a nice bit of classic patina, a bit of colorization, because this is a single walled pipe, so the heat can get right at the metal, and of course this being a 304 steel, it's going to go a nice kind of gold color, and as you can see that's already started to happen here on this setup. I've literally only done a few miles on it, so that's all good. I like that. But then let's get down to the nitty-gritty in terms of performance. Now this is all about, there's some technical stuff here which I'm sure a lot of people know about, but this is all about volumetric efficiency really. It's about allowing the system to properly purge out the cylinder, especially during the valve overlap where you have both the exhaust valve and the inlet valve, the intake valve, open at the same time. What happens during that little flash is you get a purge effect. As the fresh charge enters the cylinder, it drives out some of that remnant exhaust gas. And when you've got a free-flowing system, you ultimately have more negative pressure in your exhaust system, which just helps to suck out even more of that gas. And this is, as I said, all about volumetric efficiency. So the cleaner that cylinder is, the emptier that cylinder is for the fresh charge, the fresh fuel and the fresh air, the more efficient it's going to run. Now, there are cons. As I said, one of those cons is that by ultimately having more suction via your exhaust, there's a risk that you're going to lean out the engine a little bit as more of that fresh charge escapes unburnt into the pipe. That's when you end up with a lean engine. So it's definitely something I'm going to be looking out for as I get to know this system a little bit more. Now on the plus side, I do have the booster plug, which should be tricking that ECU into richening the mixture up a little bit. So hopefully that little piggyback setup there will do the job. I'm not getting too many pops and bangs and backfires, which would indicate that the system's okay. You can get a lot of banging, popping when you've got a lot of unburnt fuel in the pipe, and I've got to say I'm not experiencing any of that so far. It sounds nice and clean. Pratt. So what was the installation like then? Well, good news, it was pretty straightforward. Now when it comes to removing headers, the way that I do it is I just go around all of those nuts and bolts and just loosen things off a little bit. It just makes it a bit easier if you've got nothing tight in there. So I loosened up the headers, then go ahead and loosen up that 12mm bolt underneath the pipe, then the bolt on the rear as it attaches to your muffler, and then you can go back to the header and take off those bolts, getting ready to take the whole thing off. Just make sure that you're careful with the little O2 sensors up here. They're a bit of a pig to get off. Once everything's off, you're going to want to remove the little crush washer that's in the head from the factory. That was a bit of a pig to get out as well, actually. I had to use a pair of needle nose pliers to pull that out. But yeah, fairly straightforward, came out pretty easily. And once that's done, the only other thing to do is pop out the little washer from the factory pipes, because you're going to reuse that on the new ones, so that just pops out. Yeah, pretty straightforward to get that out. Again, use a pair of pliers just to squash it through, and then you're into reinstallation. So I started going around just loosely putting the bolts on, and then once everything starts to snap into place, just go back through it and adjust everything. Then, of course, making sure that you get the O2 sensors back in properly, and to do that, just give them a little bit of twist in the opposite direction to that they screw in, so that when they're properly placed back where they should be, those wires aren't twisted up. That's the only real thing to watch out for. I use a little bit of copper grease between the muffler and the pipe, just to make sure nothing seizes up there. That was a bridge, and it's customary really, isn't it? And there you go. I mean, it is incredibly straightforward. As I said, kind of anyone could do it. The other thing to make sure that you do is just make sure that you let the bike idle for around 10 to 15 minutes after you've done this, just so the ECU can figure out what's going on. I don't really know if you need to do that, but it's probably not going to do it any harm, is it? Just to make sure that the new system is properly detected. Those oxygen sensors got a little bit of learning to do, no doubt. So yeah, just let the bike run for a few minutes before you start revving it up or go for a ride. Just let the system settle down. I think in total it probably only took me about an hour to get the whole thing done. Obviously you've then got to go and do the other side as well, which is a bit of a faff, but the perils of having two pipes on your bike. What are you going to do? Now, of course, no chat about headers and exhaust pipes would be complete without a little bit of a sound check, and that's exactly what I did. So I got my camera set up with the Rode video mic exactly 2 meters away from the bike, with both the factory system and the new setup. So let's have a listen to that. And I think the difference is abundantly clear. Just beautiful. Little pop there, little pop. It does sound good. It does sound good. It's not obnoxiously loud either. It's just a really nice kind of brap. I obviously run it with the Scorpion Red Power end cans, and I've got the baffles out at the moment, so this is a completely free-flowing system. And I forgot to mention, one of the obvious benefits of a free-flow system like this is that you've got less pressure on the exhaust stroke as well, so the engine's having to do less work to expel the gases, which makes it a lot more free revving as well. And I've definitely noticed that the throttle pickup is a lot more eager, let's put it that way. It's a lot more eager to rev, and there's less engine braking as well. So those are the two things that you'll really notice straight away off the bat. It definitely feels a lot more rev happy now. And when you roll off the throttle, it just kind of keeps rolling. There's much less resistance in there because we've got a much lower pressure system. So if you're used to doing a lot of engine braking, you might need to prepare for some of that to have gone away somewhat. And honestly, I don't know how this sounds through this microphone, but it doesn't sound too aggressive to me. Look at the state of this road. Oh my God. Hideous. It's just got a really nice kind of warm burble to it. Lovely stuff. So there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. That's my first impressions of the Hitchcocks headers for the Royal Enfiled Interceptor 650, and a quick guide to how I installed them on the bike. I will do a full and thorough review on these headers once I've had a bit more time with them, once I've taken them out for a proper ride. It's just a little skit around London just to break them in and see how we're getting on with them. But we'll take them out for a proper blast, open up the taps and find out if we really have managed to eke out any significant performance now that we have this full free-flowing system. And of course, as I said, it's not just about the headers, it's about the mufflers, it's about the intake, the DNA intake, and it's about that booster plug as well. So very curious to see how the whole thing connects together and whether or not this bike is just a little bit more leery than the stock setup. But for now, I'm a happy boy. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and until the next one, ride safe.